Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah, we shall try to derive the quadratic formula, which is this over here. Famous quadratic formula: x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. I'm sure you wonder how somebody came up with something like that. And that is to solve a quadratic equation like this: a and b and c representing the numbers in this equation, the coefficient of x and the constant term. So how did we come up with this formula anyways? Who came up with this and how did we come up with this? I don't know who came up with it. But we shall try to derive this. And the way you derive the quadratic formula is by the process of completing the square, which we have learned. Now, I'm doing this because I just think it's kind of fun to be to know how this comes about. So, first I shall give you an example how we do the completing the square process business, which we did. So this will be a review, and then after that, we're going to derive the quadratic formula, inshallah, and I hope you appreciate it. Now, if you recall, that when we complete the square, the first thing we make sure is that we have to make sure that the coefficient of the x squared term is 1. If it was not 1, we would divide the whole equation by whatever it was. Let's say if it was 3, you would divide the whole equation by 3 to make it 1. In this case, it is 1 already, so we are good. The second step was to move the 6 to the other side. Okay, so you subtract 6 to both sides, from both sides, and you get x squared plus 5x equals negative 6. Okay, so x squared plus 5x equals negative 6. I'm going to put it like that and give myself some room. Okay, then you recall you take half of this, okay, and then you square that and you put it over there. This is the process of completing the square, and you do that and you add that to both sides. I'm going to do it like this, okay, and this is going to be plus this, right? I'm going to add that to both sides, okay, like that. Okay, so you could do it like this too, okay, 5 over 2 and then square on it, but I'm going to tag it on and in front of the 6 this time because it's going to help us in a little bit. So it doesn't matter if it's commutative property of addition, right? So you do that, and then you convert this into this square, remember? Okay, and then you have x plus this 5 over 2 comes over here, right, equals all of this. Okay, in this case would be, let's just do this math over here. It's 25 over 4 minus 6, right? And then let's not panic and just make the common denominator like that. And this is going to be 25 over 4 minus 24 over 4. Okay, that's going to be 1 over 4. So I just simplified all of this. Okay, the big boys and girls, we can do that, right? So this that. And then you recall, you take the square root of both sides, okay? And you put this like this, you get 1/4. And then you take the square root of both sides like this. And then you do plus or minus that, right? Remember? And then you get x plus 5 over 2 equals to, square root of this is plus or minus 1 over 2. Square root of 1 is 1, square root of 2 is 2, plus or minus, right? And then you subtract 5 over 2 from both sides. You get x is negative 5 over 2 plus or minus 1 over 2. This will give you two answers. You can see negative 5 plus or minus 1 over 2. Okay? And then you would get two answers from this. This is going to be negative 2 and negative 3. Right? Okay? So that's the process of completing the square. Now we're going to use the same process to derive the awesomeness maximus quadratic formula, inshallah. So let's do that. So let's do this. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? Same, we're going to follow the same steps. Okay. the first thing is we have to make sure this is 1, right? So in this case, it's a. So you divide the whole equation by a like this to make it a 1, because it's not a 1. It could be 1, but it's not. So just divide the whole thing by a. Okay? It's the first step. So let's do that. If you do that, okay, then you'll get x squared plus, the a is gone, right? So b over a, x plus c over a equals 0 over a is still 0. And then we take this to this side. Then we get x squared plus b over ax, okay, equals to, I'm going to write this over here again, negative c over a. Got it? I subtracted negative c over a from both sides. So far so good. Hopefully. And then I take the half of this, okay, put it right there. Half of b over a is going to be b over 2a, okay? How is that? I'll show you how. B over a, half of this, half of that is going to be b over 2a. Okay, that's half of that. You take half of that, okay, and then you square it, and you put it over there. So you have to just take b over 2a, and then you square it, right? And you can't just do that to one side. You have to add that to both sides. B over 2a, and then square that. Now you can do it in front of this or after this. In this case, we chose to do it in front of it, right? That's cool, right? Okay. And then, of course, we complete the square. All that work for nothing, right? No, of course not. So you have to complete the square. So do that. Let's do that. So we get this. We get x plus this goes over here. B over 2a. Okay. That's going to equal to this. Now we have to add this, all right? Okay, don't worry, don't panic. We'll do it together. Watch this. So over here. Okay, so I'm going to square this, okay? I'm going to do this work over here, all right? So it's going to be b squared over 4a squared. Distribute the square. B squared over 2 squared is 4a squared. Got it? Right, so I just distributed this over here, over here, over here. Okay. And then I have minus c over a. That's this part of it. Don't panic again. You can panic, but when you calm down, you come back. So, now we have to add this fraction, okay? So we have to get a common denominator. Okay, I multiply 04, I need an a and an a. Ta-da, got it. So now I can add those two. The common denominator is 4a squared. Okay. On the top I have b squared minus 4. I'm going to ac. We'll stop. Put the a before the c. So this right here. All of this is just this added over there. Okay. So I'm going to put this over here. B squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Good. Phew. So we're so good. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. Like, that's the fun part, right? So you take the square root of both sides, but then you have to do plus or minus over here, right? Whoa, this big square root. Now you watch this. You have to take the square root of the whole thing like that. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Then you get x plus b over 2a. That's this part over here. Equals plus or minus square root of this. Now, if you have square root of a over, let's write the square root of x over y, you can divide that into a square root of x or square root of y, right? If you have a square root of a fraction like this, you can divide it up into 2. Okay? So that's what we're going to do over here. Okay, so this is going to become square root of b squared minus 4ac over, that's this part over here, over square root of 4a squared. Okay? I'm going to need a little bit of room here. So I'm going to erase this part over here. Because that was just kind of like scratch work, right? Okay, so I'm going to just rewrite this whole thing over here, okay? Ooh, okay. So you don't like. So let me rewrite that. So get x plus b over 2a equals the square root of b squared minus 4ac over the square root of 4a squared. Okay, now this you can simplify. Okay, how? Well, what's this? X plus b over 2a equals, okay, square root of, try to do it neatly, square root of b squared minus 4ac over square root 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a. So that simplifies that. Now there's a plus or minus there. Don't forget the plus or minus. I just did, didn't I? Plus or minus right there. Okay. And then you subtract minus b over 2a from both sides. Then you get x, then you get, what is this? Then you get x is equal to, this is gone, opposite of b over 2a, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Almost there. Now look, the denominators are the same. So we can just add them, simplify like this. So when you, since the denominator is same, you can just write that as this, opposite of b, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Ta-da! That is the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is derived, as you can see, starting from a generic quadratic equation, and by the process of completing the square, okay, we get the quadratic formula. Now, I think that's kind of cool. If this would be the only reason why you would learn the completing the square, that would be a worthwhile reason to learn the completing the square, as cumbersome as it is. Then you can say you can derive the quadratic formula at least. I think that's fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time then, Assalamu alaikum.